My wife stopped coming home on weekends. Work trips, she said. One day, I got a call from a friend. She's here. With another man. Furious, I showed up at the hotel. As I pounded on the door, she opened it, smirking. Took you long enough. My blood ran cold. You wanted me to catch you? She nodded. It was the only way you'd finally let me go. My hands shook, but then I laughed. Funny. I was about to say the same thing. I turned, and from the shadows, someone stepped forward. Her smirk disappeared when she saw who it was. I don't know why I didn't see it sooner. Looking back, the signs were obvious. My wife, Rachel, had been working late more often. At first, it was just once or twice a month. Then it became a weekly thing. Then, without much warning, she started taking weekend trips. It's just this big client, she had said the first time. If we land them, my boss is gonna give me a huge bonus. I remember feeling proud of her. She had worked hard for years, and I wanted to be the supportive husband. So I told her I understood. Told her I'd hold down the fort. I'd take care of the kids, the house, everything. The first few trips, she called often. She'd check in, ask about my day, say she missed me. But then the calls became texts. The texts became shorter. Then, eventually, she stopped checking in altogether. One Friday, she left in a rush. Barely said goodbye. I stood there, watching the door close, a strange feeling creeping up my spine. Something was wrong. I didn't want to be that guy, the paranoid husband who assumes his wife is cheating because she has a busy job. I shoved the thoughts down and focused on my weekend with the kids. Then, 2 months ago, my friend Jason called me late at night. She's here, he said, his voice low. I frowned. What? Rachel. She's at the Marriott. I blinked. Okay. Jason hesitated. She's not alone, man. Everything around me seemed to stop. Jason knew Rachel. He knew our situation. He wouldn't have called me unless he was sure. What are you saying? I asked, my throat dry. She's here with some guy, he said. I saw them at the bar. They were all over each other. Then they went upstairs. My hands clenched into fists. What room? Jason exhaled. You sure you want to do this? Tell me the room. He gave it to me. I didn't think. I just moved. I grabbed my keys and walked out the door without even putting on a jacket. The drive was a blur. I barely remember parking. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my teeth. The hotel lobby was quiet, the kind of quiet that felt too normal for what was about to happen. I strode past the front desk, heading straight for the elevators. I knew if I stopped to think, I might talk myself out of it. The numbers ticked up. 4th floor. Rachel stood there in a silk robe, her hair messy, her makeup smudged. But it was her expression that hit me the hardest. She wasn't shocked. She wasn't scared. She smirked. Took you long enough. My blood ran cold. It wasn't an accident. She hadn't been caught. She wanted this. You, my voice caught in my throat. You wanted me to find out? Rachel leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. It was the only way you'd finally let me go. Something inside me snapped. My hands shook. My body felt too hot, then too cold. But then, I laughed. It was bitter. Ugly. A sound I barely recognized. Rachel's smirk faltered. Funny, I said, stepping back. Because I was about to say the same thing. Her eyes narrowed. What? I turned my head. From the shadows of the hallway, someone stepped forward. Rachel's face drained of color the second she saw who it was. She wasn't smirking anymore. Rachel's smirk was gone. Her body stiffened as her eyes locked onto the person stepping out of the shadows. Her lips parted slightly, as if she wanted to say something, but nothing came out. The man beside me didn't say anything either. He just stared at her, his face unreadable. It was Ryan. My stomach twisted. I picked up the phone, my hands sweaty. I didn't open it. Just stared at it. Was this what I thought it was? I knew Ryan. We had met before. He was charismatic, successful, well-dressed. I had shaken his hand at office parties. I had thanked him for believing in Rachel's talent. I had trusted him. Now, my mind was spiraling. Was I just being paranoid? Before I could stop myself, I grabbed my phone and found Ryan's number in our old group text from a company dinner. I called him. He picked up on the second ring. "Hey, man. What's up?" I swallowed. "Hey, Ryan. I think Rachel left her work phone at home. Your message popped up." Silence. And in that moment, so did I. "You should come by my office," Ryan said suddenly. My pulse pounded in my ears. "Why?" "I think we need to talk." Rachel took a shaky step back. She started, but her voice cracked. She glanced at me, then back at Ryan. "Why are you here?" Ryan crossed his arms. "Funny. I was about to ask you the same thing." Rachel's throat bobbed. But I didn't let her finish. "You lied," I said. My voice was calm. Too calm. "You told me you were working. That you were doing all of this for us." Rachel's eyes darted between us. I could see the wheels turning in her head, trying to figure out which fire to put out first. "Wait," she breathed. "You too," Ryan exhaled sharply, shaking his head. He came to me, "Rachel. We talked." Her mouth opened, then closed. "I was prepared to lie for you," Ryan admitted, rubbing his face. "I was. I didn't want to get involved in your marriage. But the second he confronted me, I couldn't do it. I couldn't pretend I didn't know." Rachel took another step back, gripping the doorframe like she needed it to stay standing. For the first time, she looked afraid. I had spent months feeling like I was losing my mind, questioning every little thing. But now? Now, the power had shifted. "I need you to tell me the truth," I said. She swallowed. "What truth?" I took a slow, deliberate step toward her. "How long?" Rachel hesitated. My patience snapped. "How long?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "Almost a year." I felt like I had been punched in the gut. "A year. A whole year." Ryan let out a slow breath, shaking his head. "Damn." Rachel was watching me carefully now, like she was expecting me to yell, to break something, to lash out. But I didn't. I just stared at her. And then I asked the question that had been burning inside me since the moment I found out. "Why?" Rachel flinched. Not because I raised my voice. Not because I had threatened her. But because I looked at her like I didn't know her anymore. And maybe I didn't. She took a deep breath, closing her eyes for a second before looking at me again. I wasn't happy. The words hit me harder than I expected. She kept going, voice uneven. I felt stuck. Like I was living the same day over and over. "You were so content. You didn't even notice when I started drifting away." I clenched my jaw. "So instead of talking to me, you just, what? Decided to have an affair?" Rachel shook her head. "I tried to tell you. So many times." "Bullshit." My voice was sharper now. "You didn't try. You lied. You made me feel crazy. And the worst part? You wanted me to find out this way." Rachel said nothing. I turned to Ryan. "Did you know she was doing this on purpose?" Ryan's expression darkened. "No. I thought she was just being reckless." I let out a cold laugh. "Well, she wasn't." Rachel was staring at me, her lips pressed into a tight line. "Are you done?" she asked. I felt something snap inside me. "Done? Done?" I took a slow step forward, leaning in just enough to lower my voice. "You think this is over?" I said, my tone deadly quiet. "Since you wanted me to find out like this, let's make it official." She froze. I took another step back, straightening my spine. "Tell the truth, Rachel," I said. "Tell me everything. On camera." For the first time since I arrived, she looked genuinely terrified. Rachel's face drained of color. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. Ryan's phone was held up, thumb hovering over the record button. The little red dot wasn't blinking yet, but the moment he pressed it, there would be proof. No more lies. No more excuses. Rachel had wanted me to find out. She had wanted this confrontation. But she hadn't expected this. I could see the panic in her eyes. She was trapped. She had spent months controlling the story, twisting it into whatever version suited her best. But now? She wasn't in control anymore. I was. Rachel's breath hitched. I barely had time to react before a man stepped forward, shirtless, barefoot, and very much not expecting company. Him. The guy she had been cheating with. He was younger than me. Maybe early 30s. Gym-built body, a stupid half-smirk still lingering on his face from whatever moment Rachel and I had just interrupted. I stared at him. He stared back. Then he looked at Ryan. And his whole face changed. I caught it in real time, the flicker of recognition, the instant regret. The way his eyes widened just enough to betray his thoughts before he caught himself. Something was wrong. Rachel had gone completely still. Ryan lowered his phone slightly. "Hold up," he muttered, frowning. "I know you." Rachel turned sharply. "No, you don't," she said quickly. Too quickly. Ryan ignored her. He squinted at the guy, like he was digging through memories. Then his eyebrows shot up. "No. No fucking way." The man tensed. I glanced at Rachel. She wasn't just panicking, she looked horrified. Ryan let out a sharp laugh, but there was no humor in it. "You've got to be kidding me." He turned to me, shaking his head. "Do you know who this is?" I didn't answer. Because suddenly, I wasn't sure I wanted to know. Ryan turned back to the guy. "Your name's Eric, right?" Rachel's whole body jerked, like she wanted to stop him. But it was too late. Ryan's voice darkened. "You used to work for me." My stomach dropped. I whipped my head toward Rachel, but she wouldn't look at me. Eric swallowed, his Adam's apple bobbing. He ran a hand through his hair, trying to play it cool, but his face was tight. "Yeah, I did. A while ago." Ryan let out a scoff. "Yeah. A while ago." Then his voice turned cold. "I fired you." The air in the hallway changed. Everything inside me screamed something is wrong. Eric shifted uncomfortably. "Look, man," Ryan cut him off. "For stealing." The floor beneath me might as well have cracked open. I turned to Rachel again, my voice low, sharp. "You've been sneaking off every weekend to be with him? A guy who literally got fired for stealing?" Rachel's hands balled into fists at her sides. "It's not like that." "Then what's it like?" My voice was rising now. "Because to me, it looks like you threw away our marriage for a fucking thief." Eric's face darkened. "Watch your mouth." I turned slowly to face him. "Or what?" He clenched his jaw. "I don't have to explain shit to you." I laughed bitterly. "You don't, but she does." I looked at Rachel again, my blood boiling. What the hell is going on? Rachel inhaled sharply through her nose, as if steadying herself. Then she finally met my eyes. And the worst part? She wasn't scared anymore. She wasn't panicking. She looked resigned. Like she had already accepted whatever fallout was about to happen. "I was helping him," she said. Ryan and I both stared at her. She sighed, rubbing her temples. "After Ryan fired him, Eric, he needed a fresh start. No one was hiring him because of what happened." Ryan's voice was ice. "Because he stole thousands of dollars from the company." Rachel shot him a glare. "He made a mistake." Ryan scoffed. "That's what thieves call it, yeah." Rachel ignored him and turned back to me. He was struggling. And yeah, maybe at first, it was just me trying to help. But then it turned into something else. My heart pounded so hard it hurt. I had been bracing myself for the usual cheating excuses. I felt lonely, I was unhappy, I needed more excitement. But this? This was insanity. "So let me get this straight," I said slowly. "You risked our marriage, our entire life together, for a guy who got himself fired?" Rachel's expression hardened. "I told you, I wasn't happy." I stared at her, barely breathing. Ryan ran a hand through his hair, exhaling sharply. "Jesus Christ, Rachel." But something wasn't adding up. Something still wasn't right. I turned back to Eric. He was standing stiffly, arms crossed, his whole body tight. I thought back to that flicker of recognition in his eyes when he first saw Ryan. The moment of pure regret before he masked it. And suddenly, something clicked. I took a step closer to him. He tensed. I ignored it. "Why do I feel like I'm missing something?" I asked. Eric scoffed. "Man, you already got your answer." "No," I said. "I don't think I did." I turned to Ryan. "You fired him for stealing money?" Ryan nodded. "Yep. We caught him messing with invoices." Overcharging clients, pocketing the extra. I looked at Eric again. Is that true? Eric didn't answer. I took another step closer. Because the way you reacted when you saw Ryan, that wasn't just embarrassment. I tilted my head. That was fear. Eric's jaw tightened. Rachel moved suddenly. Stop. I ignored her. You weren't just stealing from the company, were you? I said. Eric's whole body went rigid. And that's when I knew. Ryan sucked in a breath. Oh, fuck. Rachel grabbed my arm. Let it go, she said quickly. This doesn't concern you. I turned on her so fast she flinched. Doesn't concern me? Her eyes were pleading now. Please. Just drop it. But I couldn't. Because suddenly, I understood. I looked back at Eric, feeling my pulse in my throat. What else did you do? I asked. Eric finally met my eyes. And he smiled. A slow, knowing smile. The kind that said, yeah, I know something you don't. And right then, I realized, I wasn't just dealing with a cheating wife. I was dealing with something much worse. Final part. Eric's slow smile made my stomach turn. It wasn't arrogance. It wasn't even amusement. It was confidence. Like he knew something I didn't. And Rachel? She was begging me to stop. Not because she was afraid I'd hit Eric. Not because she was worried about an argument. But because there was something bigger. Ryan's face twisted as realization dawned on him too. Oh, hell no, he muttered. Rachel, you didn't. Rachel's fingers tightened on my arm. Drop it. I yanked my arm free. No, I said, voice sharp. No more lying. No more covering shit up. If there's something else, say it. Rachel turned to Eric, her face pleading. Don't. Eric just chuckled, shaking his head. You see what I mean, he said to me, voice casual. She's still trying to protect you. I clenched my jaw. Protect me from what? Eric took a step forward, arms crossed. You want to know the truth? He tilted his head toward Rachel. Ask her where the money went. The world seemed to tilt. Ryan's head snapped toward Rachel. Oh, fuck. No. Rachel closed her eyes. Everything inside me turned ice cold. Rachel, I said slowly. She didn't answer. I took a step closer. Tell me. Where did the money go? She sucked in a breath. Then, I took it. The hallway went dead silent. For a second, I actually thought I misheard her. Ryan let out a harsh, bitter laugh. Jesus Christ, Rachel. I swallowed, my throat tight. You what? Rachel finally met my eyes. And the look on her face wasn't smug. Wasn't defiant. It was defeated. I took it, she repeated. I helped Eric move the money. He didn't do it alone. The ground beneath me felt unsteady. The woman I had married. The woman I had built a life with. The woman I had fought for, defended, loved. She had done this. I shook my head, my voice shaking. Why? Rachel exhaled, looking down at her hands. Because I wanted out. I felt like she had just stabbed me. You wanted out, I echoed. She lifted her head, her expression unreadable. Yeah. Anger surged through me. So your solution was stealing? I wasn't happy, Rachel snapped. I was stuck. We were stuck. She gestured vaguely between us. You were content with this boring life, the same routine every day. But I wasn't. And Eric, he helped me see that. I let out a short, bitter laugh. He helped you? Yeah, I bet he did. He helped you lie. Helped you cheat. Helped you steal. Rachel's lips pressed into a tight line. It wasn't like that. Ryan snorted. No? You laundered stolen company money, Rachel. What the fuck was it like? Rachel's face twisted with frustration. I was going to put it back. Ryan barked out a laugh. That's not how stealing works. Rachel turned to Eric. Say something. Eric shrugged, completely unbothered. What do you want me to say? He glanced at me. You're acting like I forced her. I didn't. She was more than willing. My hands curled into fists. Rachel took a shaky breath. I was planning to leave you, okay? Her voice softened. I needed time. I needed money. I let out a breath that shook. So you were gonna rob your way out? She hesitated. I was desperate. A sharp, bitter silence stretched between us. Then, Ryan let out a slow exhale, running a hand through his hair. Well, he muttered. Guess I'm calling the cops. Rachel's head snapped toward him. Ryan, don't even try it, he cut her off. I should have turned Eric in the first time. But now? Now you're involved. And I'm not covering for either of you. Panic flickered across Rachel's face. I can fix this. Ryan raised an eyebrow. Oh yeah? You got a spare $100,000 lying around? Rachel swallowed hard. I stared at her, my whole body shaking. How much? Rachel blinked. What? How much did you take? I asked, voice eerily calm. She hesitated. Then, barely above a whisper, $127,000. The number hit me like a truck. I took a step back. Rachel reached for me. Wait, I jerked away. Don't touch me. Rachel flinched. Ryan sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose. All right. Enough of this shit. I'm making the call. Rachel grabbed his arm. Please, don't. Ryan yanked free. You fucked me over, Rachel. You fucked him over. You don't get to beg. Rachel turned to me, desperate now. Please. You can stop this. I stared at her. The woman I had loved. The woman I had trusted. She had already broken my heart. Now, she wanted me to save her? Eric scoffed. You're wasting your breath. He's not gonna help you. Rachel whirled on him. You promised me, Eric rolled his eyes. Jesus, Rachel. I don't owe you shit. Rachel's face crumbled. And in that moment, I saw it, she had bet everything on Eric. She had gambled our marriage, our life, our future, on him. And now? Now she was realizing what I had known all along. Eric wasn't her escape. He was her end. Ryan stepped aside, phone to his ear. Yeah, this is Ryan Mitchell. I need to report a financial crime. Rachel made a small, broken sound. Then she turned back to me, tears in her eyes. I never wanted it to end like this. I just looked at her. Finally, I exhaled. My shoulders dropped. My heart slowed. And I knew. I was done. Completely, irrevocably done. I stepped past her without another word. As I walked away, I heard her calling my name. I didn't turn around. I never would again. Rachel was arrested that night. Eric took off before the cops arrived, but they found him a week later. Turns out, he had been doing a lot more than stealing company money. Fraud, identity theft, even some offshore scam bullshit. He's looking at serious time. Rachel got a plea deal, 6 months in county jail, plus restitution. She called me once. I didn't answer. The divorce was finalized last week. I'm still figuring things out. Some days, I feel empty. Some days, I feel free. But every day, I remind myself of one thing, the woman I loved never existed. She was just a lie. And now? Now I get to start over. Without her.